Doesn't she make this chairmanship sound awesome? Thank you, Sean. And to follow a $17.5 million corporate raise for our community is a daunting goal. And I'll just start by saying that I need a lot of help, just like Sean did with her fantastic cabinet. Thank you for those kind remarks. I did ask Sherry to make sure that she deleted all those accolades in my bio, so I'm sorry you had to listen to all of that. But anyway, the first thing that I would like to do, in addition to thanking my predecessors, is to thank in advance a corporate cabinet that we've established. And if you would put that cabinet on the screen, there's 2 pages, and as you know, to lead something like this, you never do this on your own. You do it with a lot of help from a lot of people. I'm blessed. We've got a couple of tables from C&L here, and I couldn't do anything without them, but also this corporate cabinet that have volunteered their time to help me in this year's campaign, and I'm thanking them already in advance. The time is drawing to a close, and I'm the only thing that's standing between you and rolling your sleeves up and helping United Way, so I also will be brief. And I really want to spend just a couple of minutes and talk to you as to why I agreed to chair this campaign. And the first is clearly obvious to you now, is I've longed all my life to wear this red jacket. It's obvious. I'll get a lot of practical use out of this jacket. And I know that there'll be a long line of folks for future chairs as a result of this. But there actually are 2 reasons specifically why I agreed to do this. And one wasn't because I had a lot of free time. None of you do either. But 2 specific reasons that I agreed to do this. And one is the need in our community is greater than we even realize. And then secondly, the United Way business model is more effective than you know. So those are really the 2 reasons, and I just want to touch on that for just a minute. We live in the city beautiful. It's a fantastic city, and anybody who's lived anywhere else and comes here knows what a great city this is, and I'm one of those. I've been here just 4 years, and this is a wonderful place. It's incredibly welcoming, but for September, the weather is fantastic. So come October and the next 7 months or 8 months, it's going to be fantastic. It is truly the city beautiful. However, there are some statistics about our city that are disturbing to me, that are frankly not acceptable, and they shouldn't be acceptable to you either. The research firm Gallup does significant research and polling every year. One of their research is called the Well-Being Index, where they survey residents of 190 cities. And they've done this for years, so they've established a bench line, and now they can make comparisons year in and year out. Unfortunately, this Well-Being Index, Orlando, our city, does not rank very well. 2 years ago, we were 144th. We've moved up to 78th this last year, so we're comfortably in the middle of the pack. But there's one stat that is really, really disturbing, and that is access to basic services. Access to basic services is a polling data where they capture access to transportation, to health care, to potentially food if they're hungry, and crime statistics and that sort of thing. In that specific category, for 5 years in a row, Orlando ranks in the bottom, now get this, 15% of those 190 cities. We rank in the bottom 15%. Those are some of the same things that United Way is all about. That's not acceptable to me. It shouldn't be acceptable to you, and that's one of the reasons why I agreed to do this. The second reason I agreed to do this is because the business model of United Way and their approach is better and more effective than you think. And let me explain that. The focus is on education, on income stability, on overall health and wellness, and alleviating poverty and homelessness, right? Education, income stability, health and wellness, and alleviating poverty and homelessness. Those are 4 mission critical objectives, right? But it's not just giving money to causes. So United Way changed their model a number of years ago to focus on results, not just feeding the hungry or putting housing for the homelessness, but trying to get to the root causes of those issues to be able to have cures, to be able to bring the trend lines down in each of those areas. A very difficult transition, difficult for a number of agencies that are no longer affiliated with United Way. And so the model now is focusing on meeting the needs, but also driving for results. That is mission critical. The second piece of the United Way model is a term that I want all of you to know because you'll hear more about it in the years to come, and it's a term called collective impact. Collective impact. And that is contrasted from isolated impact, okay? So let me illustrate. So let's talk about poverty. We saw some slides. 1 out of 4 children in Florida, 1 out of 5 in Central Florida live in poverty, okay? Now that's disturbing in and of itself. So you think about the conditions that those children live in poverty. A high percentage of impoverished kids don't grow up healthy. They don't focus on nutrition. In fact, 1 out of 2 African American and Hispanic children will have diabetes developed in their lifetime. Diabetes, right? Why don't they focus on nutrition? Well, 1, they're poor. 2, they have no access to basic nutrition. If you are in areas of concentrated poverty, there's no grocery stores. You're going to end up buying food at a convenience store. That's not going to be the most healthy, all right? Poverty causes families to relocate. Anybody here that's affiliated with the public school system can attest better than I. Kids that are impoverished move substantially more than kids in families who aren't. Well, what happens to kids who move? Well, they move to new schools, new school districts. They have absenteeism, and mixed with illness, there's substantially more absenteeism, which creates getting behind in grades and poor grades, which leads to dropouts, right? Well, what happens to dropouts? As we've heard from Stan and the others, high school dropouts are an incredible cost to all of us, and we are failing and letting those kids down. Do you realize 75%, the sheriff, again, can attest better than I, 75% of crimes committed in our country are committed by high school dropouts. High school dropouts are 8 times more likely to end up in prison. 90% of the jobs in America, 90% of the jobs will require a post-high school degree. Well, what happens with high school dropouts? Well, naturally, you have enormous unemployment, which leads to enormous poverty, right? And the cycle continues. So the collective impact model is focusing in each of those areas, connecting all the dots, not focusing just education or just income stability and job training or just health and wellness, right? Or just alleviating poverty and homelessness. It's focusing collectively on impacting all of them together, because that's how you can lift a community out of some of the challenges. That's how we can lift Orlando out. Okay? So let me show a couple of slides, because now I want to say, what can we all do? Well, many of you in this room are already doing an unbelievable amount of energy and effort expended in this. There's 3 things you can see there, and remember GAV. It's give, advocate, and volunteer. To raise the goal that I'm about to announce, we're going to need a lot of giving. It's going to come from not only folks in this room, but a whole lot of folks outside of this room. So I want to encourage you to be involved and active, to be able to give. Secondly, to be an advocate, right? To understand so that you can be an advocate for United Way and the programs of United Way. And thirdly, to volunteer. Call 211, volunteer for that program, volunteer for other programs. Next slide, please. Said differently, what I'd like you to do is know the story, so that you can tell the story. If you know the story and you understand some of the statistics that I just referenced, and you understand the root causes of some of these very complex problems, and we work together, we can solve this. Know the story and tell the story. If you work for a company that is not a United Way participant, be an advocate for the company there. Know the story and tell the story. One of the ways to know the story, next slide please, is this upcoming Children's Summit. You see the specifics there on November the 8th. More than 400 community leaders, child advocates, and community service providers will rally together to discuss a roadmap for our community, aligning children's services with common goals in a collective impact model. It's a great investment of your time to go there so that you can better know the story and tell the story. Now I'd like to direct your attention to the campaign goal, which is, well, you got to guess. So I think we were looking for a little bigger impact on that. So if we went back, then we would suggest that the number that flashed on that screen for a moment was $18 million. We just wanted to see how many of you were paying attention. So $18 million is our corporate launch goal. That's $18 million, think of it this way, that if raised, and we will raise it, $18 million to be invested right here in our community in a collective impact model for those 4 critically important areas. So I want to thank you in advance for what you're already doing. I want to thank you for what you will be doing, and I want to thank all of you for living united with me. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Heart of Florida United Way and our community, thank you for attending today. We hope you leave inspired and keep the momentum going.